From the dark edge of space, the alien fleet watched Earth. 4 years, their silent eyes studied the blue planet, recording everything. Cities full of life, armies marching, planes cutting through clouds, and war machines rolling across deserts. They were patient hunters, and patience was their weapon. The aliens had a goal. They wanted to understand the human chain of command. In their own worlds, power was simple. The strongest ruled. Orders came from one master, and if that master fell, everything collapsed. It was clean, it was easy. They believed humans must work the same way. At first, they thought they were right. Through their long-distance scans, they saw human soldiers on training fields. They saw men and women carrying rifles, running in perfect lines, shouting in unison. The aliens marked them as the power class. Soldiers looked strong, fearless, and ready to kill. If Earth was ever invaded, surely soldiers would be the greatest danger. But then, something strange happened. In one desert war, the aliens recorded a battle. They saw soldiers charging forward, tanks roaring behind them. Dust filled the air, explosions lit the sky. But then, in the middle of the chaos, one soldier raised his hand and shouted a single word. Instantly, dozens of soldiers stopped moving. Not one questioned him. Not one hesitated. The aliens paused the recording. They studied it again. Why did the soldiers obey so quickly? Why did they risk death, only to freeze at one voice? The aliens searched deeper. They watched more battles. Again and again, the same mystery repeated. Soldiers fought bravely, but when one figure gave a command, everything changed. Soldiers moved like parts of a single machine. If he said advance, they advanced. If she said retreat, they pulled back without doubt. The aliens asked themselves, who are these people? They were not the strongest. Some were old. Some never touched a weapon. Yet soldiers treated their words like law. The aliens realized that humans had something more dangerous than strength: influence. For the aliens, this was confusing. In their armies, orders came from the strongest warrior. No strength meant no respect. But humans gave power to voices, not muscles. This was dangerous. The aliens decided to dig even deeper. They turned their gaze from battlefields to war rooms. Inside giant tents, humans gathered around maps. Soldiers waited outside, silent, while inside a single man or woman moved pieces on the table. They were generals, commanders, leaders. The aliens leaned closer to their screens. Here, they believed, was Earth's hidden weapon. Not soldiers. Not tanks. Not guns. But the leaders who moved them. Yet the aliens were still not satisfied. They asked a dark question among themselves. What happens if a leader falls? On their worlds, if a leader died, chaos followed. Armies broke, soldiers scattered, power collapsed. Could humans be the same? If the aliens could cut off the head, would the body die? They searched for an answer. And they found something they did not expect. In another recording, a human commander was struck by a blast. He fell to the ground, motionless. The aliens waited for collapse. Soldiers should have panicked, they thought. But something different happened. Another human stepped forward. A younger soldier. His voice was sharp, strong. Take cover. Move left, he shouted. And the soldiers obeyed. Without question. Without delay. The aliens were silent. Their eyes glowed cold. This is not possible, they whispered. One commander falls, but another rises instantly? They checked again. They found more examples. In battle after battle, the same strange pattern appeared. If a leader was gone, another human, sometimes a lower officer, sometimes even a simple soldier, would take control. And the army would keep moving like one living beast. The aliens began to feel unease. Humans were not built like them. Humans had no single point of weakness. Their chain of command was not one line, it was many. And it was endless. The longer the aliens watched, the more they feared. This was not just strength. This was something deeper. Something invisible. Humans were connected in ways the aliens could not understand. It was then that the Alien Council gave a warning to their fleets. Do not underestimate them. The human chain of command is not broken when one man falls. It bends. It shifts. And then it grows stronger. But the fleets did not listen. Some still believed humans were simple creatures. They still thought soldiers were the most dangerous. They still thought cutting the leaders would end the fight. They were wrong. Terribly wrong. For in the shadows of Earth, the aliens had already seen the first sign of the real danger. Not in the weapons, not in the soldiers, but in the strange human ability to create leaders anywhere, from anyone. And soon, the aliens would learn this truth the hard way. The alien fleet had watched enough. They were no longer satisfied with recordings and silent observation. Now, they wanted proof. Real proof. If humans were truly dangerous because of this mysterious chain of command, then the aliens had to test it. And so, on a moonless night, the sky above a remote training ground burned white. A hidden alien craft descended quietly, its silver body cutting through the dark like a blade. In a single strike of light, dozens of human soldiers were captured, lifted from the earth, and carried into the cold belly of the ship. The aliens did not want to kill them. Not yet. They wanted to study them. For days, the soldiers were kept inside a steel chamber, watched by hundreds of glowing eyes. The aliens gave them food, water, and air, but they gave them no freedom. The experiment began. First, the aliens separated the humans. They placed one soldier alone, far from the others. They wanted to see if a single fighter would still show strength without orders. At first, the soldier waited. He paced the floor. He looked around. But he did not act. He seemed incomplete. The aliens took notes. Without command, the soldier is silent. Next, the aliens returned him to the group, but this time they removed the commander, the highest-ranking officer. Soldiers stood together, confused. They whispered to each other, waiting for direction. But then one man, a lower officer, raised his hand. His voice was clear. Form a line. Stay ready. And instantly, the soldiers obeyed. The aliens leaned closer. Their faces tightened. Again. A new leader takes control so quickly. But they were not finished. They wanted to break this chain. So, they removed not only the commander, but also the lower officer. This time, they left only ordinary soldiers, no rank, no clear leader. Surely now, the humans would collapse. But collapse never came. At first, silence. Then, one of the youngest soldiers stepped forward. His voice shook, but his words carried power. Stay calm. Do not panic. We will wait. Together. The other soldiers listened. They followed his words, even though he had no rank, no medal, no authority. He simply rose, and they let him. The aliens felt something like fear. They wrote furiously in their records. When a leader is removed, another rises. The command chain cannot be destroyed. It is alive. Still, the aliens did not stop. They wanted to push further, to find the true limits of this human mystery. They placed the humans into a simulated battle chamber, a false war zone created inside the ship. Explosions shook the walls. Smoke filled the air. Strange alien machines advanced on them. The aliens watched carefully. The soldiers did not fight blindly. They waited for guidance. But who would give it? The commander was gone. The officers were gone. Only ordinary men and women remained. Then, something happened that shook the aliens to their core. A woman who was not even a soldier, a medic, shouted orders. Cover the wounded. Move to the right side. Use the broken wall as shield. The soldiers obeyed instantly. They moved like water following a riverbed. They were not confused. They were not afraid. The aliens stared. Their minds were unsettled. How How can leadership appear in anyone? For them, leadership was born only in the strongest. It was fixed. But humans were different. Humans carried leadership like a hidden spark inside every heart. And when crisis came, that spark could ignite in anyone. The alien commanders argued among themselves. "This is not natural," one hissed. "It is dangerous," another said. "It means every human is a possible commander," a third whispered, his voice cold. The experiments continued for many days. Again and again, the same result. No matter who was removed, another voice would rise. A chain that never broke. A system that repaired itself instantly. The aliens had found their answer, but it was not the one they wanted. They had hoped to see weakness. They had hoped to find a way to cut the head from the human army and leave the body to die. Instead, they discovered the opposite. For humans, the chain of command was not one line. It was a web. A network. If one thread broke, another carried the weight. If a leader fell, a new leader rose. The aliens began to understand something that made them uneasy. This chain was not made of rank or medals. It was made of belief. Soldiers believed in each other. They trusted each other. And that trust was stronger than any alien weapon. On the final day of testing, the aliens released the soldiers back into their chamber. They expected anger. They expected fear. But instead, the soldiers stood tall, shoulder to shoulder. And without command, without words, they faced the aliens with silent unity. The lead scientist wrote the last note in his report. Humans do not fight as one because of orders. They fight as one because they choose to. Their true weapon is not muscle, not guns, but the chain that binds them. Break it and it reforms. Cut it and it heals. We cannot understand it. We cannot stop it. The aliens thought they had learned everything. But they were wrong. The real lesson, the most terrifying truth, was still waiting for them on Earth. The aliens thought they finally understood humans. They had watched. They had tested. They had recorded thousands of notes. And in their minds, the answer was clear. Humans were dangerous only because of their soldiers and their leaders. The Alien Council made a decision. If they wanted Earth, they would have to cut off this chain of command. Remove the leaders, remove the soldiers, and the humans would be helpless. It sounded simple. It sounded perfect. But it was a mistake. A terrible mistake. On a silent morning, a human military base became the target. The base was small, hidden in a valley, with soldiers training outside, engineers repairing vehicles, and cooks preparing food for the day. It looked peaceful, unprepared. Above, the alien ship darkened the sky. With a flash of cold light, it descended. The ground shook. Sirens screamed. Before the humans could react, a wave of alien energy rolled across the base. Soldiers collapsed, stunned. Officers were dragged away in beams of light. The aliens moved quickly, striking only the fighters, only the leaders. Within minutes, the base looked broken. The alien commander smiled. "It is done," he whispered. "The chain of command is cut." But he was wrong. At first, there was silence. The remaining humans looked shocked, confused. The soldiers were gone. The officers were gone. Only support staff remained, engineers, medics, cooks, drivers. The aliens expected panic. They expected surrender. Instead, something strange happened. A nurse dropped her medical bag, picked up a fallen soldier's rifle, and shouted, "Get to cover! Use the walls!" The humans obeyed. An engineer ran to the vehicle yard, starting an old jeep. He shouted to others, "Bring me ammunition. I'll carry it to the barricades." The humans obeyed. Even the cook, a man who had never held a weapon, rushed to the supply tent, pulling out boxes of grenades. His voice was firm, louder than fear. "Pass these forward. Don't stop." And the humans obeyed. The aliens watched in disbelief. Their plan was falling apart. They had removed the trained fighters, but the fight continued. The humans were not waiting for soldiers to return. They were becoming soldiers themselves. The aliens launched another wave. Energy blasts burned the ground. The humans scattered, but not like animals. They scattered like a team. Cover fire came from one side, while others advanced with weapons. Commands rose from every direction, from people who were never meant to command. A medic gave orders like a general. An engineer built defenses like a strategist. A cook carried supplies like a veteran. It was chaos, but it was also order. The aliens grew nervous. They whispered among themselves. This is not possible. Leadership should be rare. It should be fragile. Why does it appear everywhere? But they had already seen the answer during their experiments. They had written it in their reports, yet they had refused to believe it. Every human carried the spark of command. And in crisis, that spark became fire. The battle dragged on. The aliens pushed harder. They fired from the skies, they released ground machines, they tried to crush the humans. But the base refused to fall. One alien scientist spoke in a low, fearful voice. We removed the leaders, yet the humans grow stronger. Their chain does not break. It multiplies. The commander did not listen. He shouted for more fire, more force. And then, the mistake became clear. Because with every strike, with every blast, the humans adapted. They learned faster than the aliens expected. When one leader fell, another voice rose. When one defense broke, another wall was built. When one plan failed, another was born instantly. The aliens realized too late, they were not fighting a group of individuals. They were fighting a living system. As the sun set, smoke covered the valley. The alien commander looked down at the battlefield. He expected victory, but what he saw instead froze his blood. The humans, the nurses, the engineers, the cooks, stood together in formation. They looked tired, dirty, wounded, but unbroken. Their eyes burned with defiance. One of them, a young mechanic, raised his fist and shouted, "Hold the line. We fight until the last." And all of them answered with one voice, "Yes." The sound shook the air. It was not the sound of an army. It was the sound of a people. The alien commander turned pale. His plan had failed. He had tried to cut the chain, but instead he had awakened something worse, the hidden power of ordinary humans rising as leaders. He whispered the truth to himself, though he hated the words. The most dangerous rank is not the soldier. It is anyone. That night, the alien fleet pulled back. They thought they had escaped disaster, but deep inside, they knew the truth. This was not a victory. This was a warning. Because if cooks, medics, and engineers could fight like commanders, then what would happen when the true commanders returned? The mistake was made. The lesson was clear. And the fear was only beginning. The alien fleet did not speak of their failure. They told no one about the soldiers who were not soldiers. They erased the records of the medic who commanded like a general. They deleted the files of the cook who carried ammunition like a warrior. But the truth could not be erased. It followed them like a shadow. Inside their council chambers, alien leaders argued. "Humans are chaos," one hissed. "They cannot survive long battles," another claimed. "They are weak, divided, emotional," a third sneered. Yet the commanders who had seen the valley stayed silent. Their eyes were heavy, their voices quiet. They had watched ordinary humans rise from nothing. They had seen a chain of command that never ended. And they were afraid. Still, arrogance poisoned the alien mind. They launched one last mission, not to fight, but to observe again. This time, they wanted to study how humans recovered after battle. So, hidden ships floated above Earth, watching cities, villages, and bases. And what they saw was more terrifying than war itself. In a burned-out town, children were carrying buckets of water. They shouted at each other, forming lines, passing buckets down the street. They were only 10, maybe 12 years old. Yet their small voices were sharp. Faster! Don't spill! Work together! The aliens shivered. Even children could command. In another place, a collapsed building smoked under the sky. Soldiers were gone, officers were gone, only survivors remained. A factory worker climbed the rubble, pointed, and yelled, "Clear this side first. Bring tools here." Dozens obeyed. The aliens wrote in their reports, "Leadership in humans is not limited to armies. It exists in every age, every class, every situation." But the final revelation came on a stormy night. The aliens had been watching a human resistance group hidden deep in the forest. They expected trained fighters, but instead, they found something else. A grandmother, old, thin, walking with a cane, stood in front of frightened refugees. Rain poured, thunder rolled, but her voice cut through the storm. "We will not run. We will not hide. We stand together." And the people obeyed. Children held sticks like spears. Farmers stood shoulder to shoulder. Even the wounded lifted stones in their hands. The aliens froze. Their eyes widened. Even this woman, frail and aged, could command hearts. That was the moment the aliens understood the truth. The most dangerous rank in humanity was not soldier. It was not general. It was not even commander. The most dangerous rank was human itself. Because every human could become a leader. Every human could rise in crisis. Every human could carry the chain of command inside them. This was something the aliens could never copy. On their worlds, when leaders died, chaos followed. On Earth, when leaders died, new leaders were born instantly. It was not training. It was not bloodline. It was not strength. It was something invisible, something deep in the human spirit. The alien council panicked. Some wanted to leave Earth forever. "They are too dangerous," they whispered. "They are not one army. They are millions of armies, waiting inside every man, woman, and child." Others still argued. "They have weakness. They fight each other. They make mistakes." But the silence of those who had seen battle said more than words. They remembered how even without soldiers, without officers, humans had fought like fire. They remembered the chain that could not be broken. In the end, the aliens left Earth. Their ships vanished into the dark between stars. But they did not leave in victory. They left in fear. And before they went, one alien commander carved a warning into the records of his people. "Do not fight the humans. Do not test them. For when you strike down one, another will rise. When you silence one voice, 10 more will shout. When you break their chain, it will grow back stronger. Their danger is not in their weapons. Their danger is that every human, in every place, carries the seed of command. They are not led by one. They are led by all." Back on Earth, the humans rebuilt their base. They did not know the full story of the experiment, or the fear they had placed in alien hearts. To them, it was just survival, just instinct, just helping each other in the face of disaster. But far above, in the endless dark, the aliens whispered of their defeat. They whispered of a truth they wished they had never learned. And the truth was this: the most dangerous rank in the human chain of command was simply being human.